The story begins 2 years ago at the Lamour Citadel Holy Shrine. There was a huge line. The kids were so excited to receive their gift at the altar. Heinemann was also there, waiting to receive his gift. His friend asked if everything was alright after seeing him nervous. He responded that this gift had been on his mind since yesterday, so he couldn't get much sleep. Reina, his friend, said she was the same as he was. She wondered what kind of gift they were going to have. The day he received the god's blessing and attained his own gift had finally come, and he couldn't wait to see what it was. In this world, when a human turns 13, they receive a special ability as a blessing from the gods, known as a gift. There is a wide variety of gifts, ranging from handling weapons such as swords and spears, the ability to use magic or create objects, or the ability to appraise or search for things. In other words, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that the gift a person receives on this day will decide their entire future. Rina wanted to become a princess and a rabbit at the same time. Rina was Kai's childhood friend. She always acts like this and is a natural airhead. Kai told her that she couldn't become a princess and that being a rabbit wasn't a gift. She was surprised and then asked what kind of gift he would like to have. Kai said a sword gift would be nice, but that was a lie. He didn't want a gift at all. The one he wanted was his grandfather, who used to be known as the swordsman. He wanted him to succeed as the master of their family's sword dojo, which is why he hopes he receives a sword gift. But Kai's wish was something different. What he really wanted was to receive a gift that lets him adventure, so he could become a great hunter like his mother. Hunters are people who explore the mysterious and unknown reaches of the world and defeat evil monsters. Someone who embarks on thrilling adventures, a hunter, is what Kai truly wanted to become. Besides, even if he received a sword gift, he didn't seem to have any talent with a sword to begin with. He was much slower at learning things than most people. His strength was also the weakest amongst other disciples his age. Meanwhile, Rina was wondering if she could become a cat. His other relative, Roman, should be the one who inherits the dojo. After all, he had the talent for it. A bright light appeared for a moment at the altar, which meant someone received a rare gift. Lila was the one who received the gift. She received the gift Sword Expert as expected. Lila Hellner was Kai's childhood friend. She was the only daughter of a longsword dojo in Lamour, which was said to rival the Heinemann style of swordsmanship, as well as his fiancée, although the fiancé part was just something both of their parents decided for them. Keith and Roman were there too. Kai asked Roman what he got, but he gave him his stuff and turned to Lila, saying he received the gift of Spear King. Lila, unbothered, said she saw him and knew that already. Roman didn't seem to be offended and said he was glad. Someone came and asked for Lila Hellner. He was a member of the Holy King's Order of Paladins, and they would like to speak with her regarding the gift she received. Lila was puzzled because her gift wasn't all that rare compared to Roman's. He responded that if she weren't the Hellner family's only daughter, it was the fact that she had trained every day from dawn till dusk to hone her swordsmanship that gave her gift of sword expertise significance. They wouldn't force her to join their ranks though. He mentioned their military post in Lamour. Kai was so amazed because the Holy King's Order of Paladins was formed by the Emilia Kingdom's finest knights. To discuss this issue, they followed the knights to the outside. Before leaving, Keith apologized to Kai on behalf of Roman. Kai said he was fine and told him not to fall behind. The line was moving, so Reina and Kai followed the people. When it was Reina's turn, she was informed that her gift was Swordsmaster. The knights at the altar were talking about how crazy this year's gifts were. The appearance of powerful gifts was proof that the demon's strength was increasing. In other words, the demons would be attacking soon. The man who was saying the gifts warned the knights to keep any unnecessary remarks to themselves. Now it was time for Kai to learn his gift. The moment he placed his hand on the crystal, the man was shocked. His body felt so heavy that he thought a limit had just been placed on him. But he had never heard of a gift having limits. The light from the crystal disappeared suddenly when it was glowing just a second ago. Kai's gift name was Most Incompetent in the World. Back to the present time at the Lamour training grounds, Roman was beating up Kai, and people were enjoying him being bullied like that. Kai was trying his best, but as the most incompetent person in the world, he had his hands tied. Roman did his last attack and knocked him down. When Kai opened his eyes, he saw the sky. He figured he passed out after Roman hit him. He heard Lila's worried voice first. She came and helped him stand up as he looked pretty beat up. Kai figured he had a bump on his head. As he looked at Lila, he noticed her heavy breasts and was embarrassed. So he didn't want her to help him and stand on his own. He comforted her, saying that he was fine because this was happening to him all the time. Ever since he received his gift of Most Incompetent in the World at the shrine that day, this was his life had been like that. It became his everyday routine. Since the manifestation of his incompetence, his physical abilities have declined significantly, and no matter how much he trained, he couldn't become any stronger. At this point, he was even weaker than women and children who hadn't done an ounce of training. No one would ever talk to him anymore. Not even his friends who he used to practice with at the training grounds. People would hit him if he made eye contact with them, and they torment him relentlessly in practice battles. Fractured bones and bloodshed were normal. He had started to consider days when he got away with just a bump on his head and a bloody nose as lucky. Even total strangers would verbally abuse him and throw rocks if they knew about his gift. In Lamour, it was only Lila and a few others who treated him the same way as before. The day he became incompetent, he lost the right to inherit the Heinemann family dojo, and his engagement with Lila was immediately cancelled. Now he was truly a nobody, not the successor of Heinemann's sword art nor Lila Hellner's fiancé, just an incompetent subhuman going by the name of Kai Heinemann. Lila asked Kai if he was going to the royal capital soon. Kai explained to her that it was pretty hard for him to stay in Lamour, so he thought that if he went there, then at least there would be a place where he would be treated like a person. She tried to stay positive and asked if he was going to find a job in the capital. His mother wanted that, but he planned to go to the neighboring city, the neutral city of knowledge Babel. It was home to a race without gifts, so he was sure someone with a trash gift like his could find some kind of work there. He promised to send her a letter once things had settled in Babel. She said that wouldn't be necessary and stood up to leave. She didn't explain the reason why he wouldn't need to send her a letter, and just said she needed to sort out her luggage. Kai was puzzled but didn't insist on her and decided to go visit his grandfather. When he stood up, he saw Roman in front of her. As if Kai didn't know about this information, Roman said he was the holder of the Spear King gift, and Kai wasn't engaged to Lila anymore. He said he had the right to marry Lila even though he wasn't from the main family. Kai responded to him that this was something Lila should decide for herself. Roman asked if he really thought Lila would choose an incompetent mutt like him. Kai responded that the depth of his feelings towards her was different than his, and he was worrying over nothing. Roman wanted to continue their argument, but his teacher called him to stop talking to Kai and continue the practice battles. He told Roman that only idiots would waste their time on a dolt like him. Before going, Roman yelled at Kai, warning him not to involve himself with Lila anymore. Kai was puzzled once again because Lila was more like a sister to him. He wanted to tell him that he didn't have any feelings for her, but he didn't think he would understand that. Kai went to his grandfather and thanked him for everything until now. His grandfather apologized for all he had put him through. Kai asked what he meant, and he said his engagement with Lila was cancelled, and he was effectively chasing him out of the house. Kai responded that he didn't mind that at all. Kai explained that he had always seen Lila as his sister. Besides, going to the royal capital of Babel was his dream. That's why he didn't feel discouraged one bit. Suddenly his grandfather started laughing. Kai asked what was so funny, and he said he was just thinking how old he had gotten. Sometimes he could see it in his eyes and it felt like they were clouded. But if his eyes are clear, he wouldn't have any problems. He told him to head to the capital and try living as he fit. It was true that his dream was to travel to Babel and become a hunter rather than take over the dojo, and it seemed like he saw straight through him. But still, he wanted Kai to know that no matter what gift he possessed, he was his family. That hadn't changed, and never would. He was welcome to come back here, and this place would always be his home. Kai appreciated it, but he said he didn't belong here anymore, and he would never come back. However, he faced the real anger of his grandfather. He told Kai to let him see his face every now and then. Kai had to promise to come visit him. His grandfather then turned his back on him and told him that the conversation was over. He told Kai to take good care of himself and shut the door. Kai packed his bag and was ready to go. Things were finally going his way, and he was going to head to Babel, the gathering point of all aspiring hunters, and take his chance to possibly become a qualified hunter. He was going to become a hunter and make his dreams come true in Babel. In the next scene, Kai arrived at the station. He was looking for the carriage station. He thought it must be around this corner, so he started walking around. He was amazed by the fancy carriage he saw and wondered what kind of person could be riding inside. A girl named Rosemary came and asked if he was Kai Heinemann. That was the same name as the Amelia Kingdom's priestess, but he didn't think there was a way she was that person. Rosemary told him that she was going to accompany him on his trip to the royal capital and was pleased to meet him. She even asked him to call her Rose. He was a bit nervous, and the woman right behind Rose didn't help him at all. She suddenly came closer to his face and asked if he had no manners. Rosemary told her to stop that and said he was the one who wanted to travel with him. Her actions brought shame to both her and his grandfather, the Sword Saint. Rosemary then bowed to him and apologized. Their servant tried to explain that Anna, the rude woman, was doing that because of the devotion she had to her. Rose said she knew that and suddenly slapped herself really hard. Kai was flabbergasted. She suddenly smiled and said they should get going, as if she didn't just slap herself. She told him to hop abroad on the carriage. Wondering if that was all nobles were like, he tried to get on the carriage. He was grateful to his grandfather for arranging the ride, but he still questioned if he would be okay with those people. They traveled until it was dinner time. Kai got his stuff and it was his turn to be served. He hurried and got the dinner. However, the chef put only one piece of bread on his plate and told him to get lost. Kai was shocked. His grandfather said that all the travel expenses were paid for, so he was confused, but then figured he had to pay separately for food. He was thinking about the bread when he didn't see the man who was walking and he bumped into him. He was the one who fell on the ground, but the man started yelling at him and called him damn incompetent. Kai tried to defend himself, saying he was the one who bumped into him, but he didn't listen to him and started kicking him. People were watching them, but didn't bother to help him. Anna was the one who yelled at him to stop. The man asked if he was the one protecting that traitor. Anna responded that she wasn't trying to protect him and she was just following Lady Rose's orders to treat him as a guest. They heard someone, and when they looked, a man with the biggest sword asked what this ruckus was. The man turned his back and walked away after seeing him. Kai was glad he got rid of him and was about to thank Anna, but she too was walking away. Anna told him that she wouldn't be helping him if it weren't for Lady Rose's orders and ordered him to go back to his tent. The man with the sword approached Kai and said that one of his men had caused trouble for him again. He also knew who Kai was. Kai finally looked at him and realized that he was Mr. Arnold. Mr. Arnold bowed to him and asked for forgiveness on behalf of his subordinates' rude behavior. Panicked, Kai said it wasn't his fault. He explained that it was the same as always. People from the royal capital and the Holy Amelia Kingdom see him as an existence shunned by God, a traitor cursed with a terrible gift. He was used to this by now and knew it couldn't be helped. Mr. Arnold told him that he was going to bring his food to his tent for him. Kai couldn't accept this and said he didn't have to go that far. But he just said kids like him should be more honest and told him to come with him. They went to the head chef and Mr. Arnold talked to him. Panicked, Chef tried to defend himself that it was Sir Frankton who said that, but Mr. Arnold wasn't asking about that. He grabbed his shirt and yelled at him to make Kai's food. The chef was terrified and immediately said yes. He told the other chefs to serve Mr. Kai's meal this instant. After 5 minutes, Kai's plate was full of different types of food. Kai felt the need to thank him for this, but he said he didn't have to do that. This was what he was entitled to. He was still a kid and should eat lots so he could grow up nice and tall. After that, he excused himself. He was going to talk to Frankton as well as the other subordinates and told them not to worry about this issue anymore. Kai was shocked that there were people like him in this world too. 3 days later, they were in the Silk Great Forest, and Kai was getting his usual amount of food. Since that incident, they have always given him these portions, plus people stopped harassing him too. Mr. Arn was amazing. At night, Kai was wondering what Rena and Keith were up to right now. Rena was a sword saint, and Keith was an archmage. Keith said he was going to the royal capital to study, and Rena joined the hero's party to defeat the Demon King. He hoped that Rena was alright. While thinking about his friends, Rose came and asked if she could come inside. Kai invited her in and they sat right in front of each other. Kai questioned what the reason could be for why she would come to his tent. He didn't like dealing with her, and if someone were to see her here, he would get harassed again. Kai wanted to ask what brought her here, but she suddenly apologized to him. She heard from Arn what the knights did to him the other day and felt so bad. Kai comforted her that she didn't have to be sorry for that, and it was in the past now. Rose said it was because of her because she selfishly asked his grandfather if she could travel to the capital with him. Kai wondered why she wanted to travel with him in the first place. She said it was because he was Rena and Keith's childhood friend. Kai was shocked because he didn't know that she knew them. She said that Keith was the younger apprentice of the head court magician, who was also her magic mentor, and Rena was her best friend. Kai was shocked again, learning that Rose was learning magic under the magician's head court. He had no idea who this girl was and started questioning in his head if she was the holy priestess Queen Laura. Kai asked if they had told her about him, and she confirmed that. Rena had always talked about him, and Rose knew more about Kai than Keith did. Kai was sure Rena told her all about his embarrassing moments from the past. He finally figured out why she wanted to come with him. After hearing so much about Kai from them, she wanted to meet him herself. Kai asked if Rena was doing well in the heroes team. Rose said she still had the same childlike personality and the heroes and knights all loved her. Kai was glad to hear that. She had always been a bit of a klutz, and Kai was worried about her. As they were talking, Anna came and told Rose that she should be getting to sleep soon. She said she must have lost track of the time while talking with Kai. Anne, while glaring at Kai, helped Rose stand up. Kai thanked Rose for teaching him all those things. Rose had so much fun as well and wanted to talk to him again. After they left, he decided to sleep, but then Mr. Arn came to his tent. He asked if something mattered, and he said he just wanted to thank him. Confused, Kai said he didn't do anything. Mr. Arn thanked him for talking with Lady Rose despite what happened. She was truly glad to be able to have a heart-to-heart conversation with him. Kai said he was the one who should thank her for speaking to an incompetent like him. Mr. Arn explained that it may not be as dire as his, but he was also bestowed with a weak gift. That's why he could empathize with him. Kai was shocked that he had a weak gift. Mr. Arn advised him to just do his best and work hard, and he would be rewarded. Meanwhile, within the Great Silk Forest, Sir Frankton came. He asked how things went on his end, and the man who was waiting for him informed that all of the creatures brought forth from his elite squad of the Empire's finest summoners were in position. Their black panthers and ogres were surrounding them as they spoke, and with the two of them joining the attack, not even a single mouse would be able to escape. Sir Frankton expected nothing less from the squad led by Sir Enzi, the Supreme Summoner. His reputation truly precedes him. Sir Enz said he disliked groundless flattery, and asked about the princess's movements. Princess Rose was engaging in conversation with the incompetent traitor earlier, but she was soundly sleeping by now. All that was left was for them to cause a commotion and separate the Knight Captain Arnold from the princess's side. After that, all would go according to their arrangements. Princess Rose was the strongest candidate for the throne. If it weren't for her, the next claimant in the line would be Prince Gilbert, the man he supported. Sir Seniel asked if he would sell out the royal he served and said the soldiers of the Empire wouldn't dare to think of that. Sir Frankton asked if he meant to say that they had no shame. Seniel responded saying if he heard it any other way, then he must have phrased it wrong. Sir Frankton told him that he knew nothing about their nation's internal matters. What he just said was extremely offensive, and he asked him to withdraw his statement. Seniel was calm and said it was true that he was betraying his master. Sir Frankton tried to defend himself by saying they weren't betraying and this was merely to wed her to the Empire. But they all knew she would sooner become the toy of a gang of gloomy summoners for the rest of her life. Sir Enz told Seniel to stop and apologized to Sir Frankton on his behalf. Frankton realized that he had let himself get caught up in anger, and there was nothing to gain from fighting amongst themselves right now. He said it was right and suggested returning to the camp and starting the operation. He said he was counting on both Sir Seniel and Sir Enz. Sir Frankton was so excited because the time to drive that princess out of their homeland had finally come. Two of the Glittner Empire's strongest assets, the 6 commanders, were there. With them, there was no chance of failure. He wasn't going to allow that infuriating Princess Rose to become the next queen. If she were to succeed in the throne, the noble order he had been protecting all this time would be destroyed from its roots, and he couldn't afford that to happen. As a member of the proud lineage that had served the throne for generations for their great cause, he was going to see it done and swore his loyalty to Prince Gilbert. That night, Kai woke up from his sleep to go to the bathroom. He regretted not going more before sleeping. He thought he could just do it near the tent, but it would be a hassle if someone found him. He went a bit far, but it was too dark to see his footing. He looked around and found a good spot, but then made eye contact with a scary man. He started panicking because he was sure this person wasn't on the carriage. He asked if he was someone who lived around there. The man ignored his question and said there wasn't anything about this in the report. He said a little playtime should be fine as long as it didn't interfere with the plan. Kai was terrified by him. He told him that he could run away if he wanted, and he should run away. Or else, it would be quite boring because he just summoned many different monsters to kill him. Kai started running away without thinking, and while running he tried to understand what was going on. Who was that man? What was he? And why was he trying to kill him? His chest started hurting and he couldn't breathe. His legs were screaming in pain and his whole body was breaking down. Once again, he hated that he was so slow, even though he was running for his life. He could already hear footsteps right behind him and he didn't want to be caught. He knew he was slow because of that fight. Ever since that day, because of this so-called most incompetent gift in the world, his life had been miserable. He was always suffering because of this cursed gift. If it was going to be like this, he wished to have a swordsmanship gift instead. He wouldn't have cared if he had never become a hunter, and if he had lived and died in Lamour. He would take over the Heinemann swordsman's dojo, marry Lila, meet with Rena and Keith sometimes, and talk nonsense instead of dying in the middle of an empty forest, killed by monsters. He saw running water and thought this was the end. Inside the waterfall, he saw a light. The monsters were coming, so he had no choice but to move forward. After he ran inside the waterfall, he found himself in the middle of nowhere. Confused, he wondered what was going on. Just a second ago, he was inside the forest, and the entrance he used was nowhere to be found. He started laughing hysterically because of the irony in this situation. He wasn't sure, but it looked like he had managed to escape from the monsters. But then I thought the cave itself might be some kind of trap. He saw a building and wanted to rest in the shade for a little bit. The building was actually a temple. He saw a stone that looked like the shape of a hand and there was something written. He wanted to take his chance and put his hand on the hand-shaped thing. A light appeared and the circle in front of him started shining. Something appeared, verified access for gifts ranked above divine, and registered player Kai Heinemann. Kai read what it said and wondered if it was some kind of mistake. After that, the system welcomed him to the trials of the gods. He proceeded to the next step and it explained the rules. Rules were simple: he cannot leave this place until he clear this game. Once registered, players do not age and time outside was halted. Players were granted the infinite storage toolbox and special appraisal skill, as well as escape shoes and indestructible stitch. And last but not least, the elixir stored in the item box could hold up to 20 bottles. Kai figured that the dungeon itself was the game. But relics like this would normally be cleared up by top-tier hunters working in teams. There was no way one person could clear a whole dungeon alone. Plus, while he was here, time outside stops. If he cleared it and went out, he would be back to facing those monsters. There was no good side to his situation. He tried to organize his thoughts and think about it for a moment. Players were further granted those next 5, he thought. The first one was an item box. When he said it out loud, a box appeared next to him. Inside the box, there were only escape shoes and an indestructible stick. He touched the escape shoes and a pair of shoes dropped. He tried to store them again, and they disappeared. He was amazed because this was a rare item box even in the merchant's gift. Fourth item was appraisal skills. He looked at the shoes and tried to use his appraisal skills. The shoe increases the probability of fleeing from enemies, but once the owner initiates combat, the effect of the shoes in that battle is nullified. Being able to escape from enemies like this was something Kai had never heard of before, and he wondered if this was a national treasure level item. He then had an idea and tried to appraise himself. Seeing his skill description, he confirmed that his gift was really a divine rank. Under certain conditions, it holds the potential to exceed all limits in any category. It was pretty abstract, and he wondered if it was just a fancy way of saying effort pays off. He didn't really understand the concept of gift tanks either, so he decided to check on the elixirs. He decided to appraise everything in the room one by one to find it. Finally, he found an elixir spring. He thought it would be in a bottle, but it was actually gushing out. He tried to confirm if this was really an elixir source and cut his finger a little bit. When he put his injured hand inside the water, his cut instantly healed. He was amazed once again. Despite having the most incompetent in the world branded on him, he had obtained the item box and the appraisal skill. Plus, he had discovered the elixir spring, a historical monumental find. If he reports this to the Hunter Guild, he would surely be favored and become a renowned hunter like his mother. With his escape shoes, his own knife, and infinite storage toolbox that had elixir inside, he was rely on to escape this place. He entered the dungeon and had a chilly sensation. He tried to calm down and stick to the wall just like the hunter manual told him. He constantly comforted himself that he could do this. However, the wall disappeared, and his hand was inside the mouth of a giant monster. Kai was flabbergasted. Panicked, he tried to run away, but it was so dark that he didn't even see if it was coming to him. With his arm almost ripped out, he barely managed to go where he started and immediately did an elixir bath. He started questioning where he was right now. His mother called him to the royal capital. He spent about a week traveling in the carriage, camping, and then when he left the tent, he bumped into a man with red hair. He finally regained his consciousness and realized where he was. Panicked, he recalled a monster eating his right arm, but thankfully it was healed. He figured he somehow managed to escape from that monster. But even with an elixir, his clothes cannot be repaired. The fiber got shredded into pieces and the red stuff was his blood. He confirmed that what happened earlier wasn't a dream and everything was real. If he wanted to escape, he had to go back to that dungeon. This time he was lucky to survive, but he wasn't sure about the next time. He started panicking after thinking about dying. Once again, Kai started crying his eyes out about his fate. In the next scene, Kai had been there for 7 days and was about to starve to death. The only edible thing was a hardened toxic bug. Even if it was highly nutritious, it had venom strong enough to kill a dragon, so he was sure he would die too. At day 15, he chugged elixir like water. If this hellish hunger kept going, he was sure he would die if he didn't eat the bug. He would die. The moment he put the bug inside his mouth, his vision went red, and he was sure this was his death. However, a notification came and informed him that he acquired a skill called Lesser Poison Resistance. There was a voice inside his head saying this. He was so glad that elixir worked even though he felt incredibly nauseous. Also, he had a headache and dizziness. He continued drinking the elixir, and his symptoms were gone. For some reason, his stomach was feeling full too. He was glad that he didn't have to worry about food now. But he wasn't sure if this would be good. From now on, he had to eat nothing but bugs. After 100 days, he had looked at the poison resistance skill explanation and realized that no matter how many of those bugs he ate, he wouldn't die. 1 year passed and he started practicing swordsmanship skills to clear his mind because he was about to lose his mind. After 40 years, he was imagining his opponents, and today's opponent was Roman. He started having a fierce battle with Roman, and finally he managed to beat him. With that, today's virtual match was completed. He realized that he had been winning a lot more in those virtual matches lately, and he even beat his master. He suddenly had a new skill. It was the first stage of sword technique. He had never heard of a skill like that, but confirmed that imaginary battles count too. If it was called the first stage, that meant there were more levels above it, so he decided to keep at it. 800 years later, he finally reached the intermediate stage. This time, he was battling with the legendary heroes of this nation. A master swordsman from Isabel's theocracy who wields 2 swords as if they were his arms and feet, the dual-wielding Graham. The elf hailed as the strongest for integrating magic and swordsmanship into one, the magic sword, Silver, and the former sword emperor of the Glitter Empire, Ashburn. It was time to challenge those images now. 1500 years later, those legendary heroes were all so weak in front of Kai. He imagined them coming at him all at once and still beat them. 3,000 years after the game started, there was only one person left who could face Kai. He was the strongest swordsman in this world, surpassing all sword saints combined. The strongest virtual enemy he was facing was actually himself, Kai Heinemann. In the next scene, Kai was ready to fight a real monster. He used his appraisal skill to see what the monster's stats were, but aside from the name, everything else was unknown. However, instead of being scared, he found fighting with an enemy shrouded in mystery interesting. Without waiting any longer, he rushed to it to attack. The monster was too straightforward and slow for him, so he was confident in his movements. As he continued fighting, he noticed that it used its legs too. He dodged its attack and realized that it was just a grasshopper, and this was the monster's limit. Though it was a waste of time, he decided to show the monster something special. He used the Toetsu swordsmanship technique called Brink of Death and slashed the monster's head into 2 pieces like it's nothing. He was a bit disappointed that a monster he had feared was easy to beat. He noticed that his status had improved, so defeating enemies enhanced his physical abilities. If that was the case, he decided to kill more and more monsters. When he arrived at the deepest chamber, everything crumbled at a mere touch. Swinging a sword would have felt more worthwhile. The chamber was ridiculously vast and only got wider as he descended. The toxic bugs were almost gone as well. He wondered if he should return to the surface using a magic teleportation circle, but then decided to keep going while eating those. When he was full, he moved on to the next floor and encountered the biggest, scariest-looking monster he had ever seen, the Killer Hornet. The system confirmed that the player had reached the 10th underground floor and was initiating the first trial, defeating the Killer Hornet. Kai figured that there was a powerful enemy every 10 floors. This was perfect timing because he was growing bored of nothing but grasshoppers. At last, a worthy adversary. Now they could try to kill each other to their heart's content. Something shocking happened. The monster disappeared and it took his left arm in less than a second. Instead of fearing the monster again, he found it impressive, because he was feeling pain after so long. This was going to be a kill worth savoring. This monster was extremely fast, but it was always making a straight line attack, so it was a bit disappointing. Plus, before moving at high speed, it stays and trembles in place for a while. It practically said, "Dodge me." He noticed that the monster had a trump card. It started releasing poison to attack from a range. Kai used his third form, called the Moon Mirror, and started gathering the poison around his sword. Ranged attacks like this did not affect him, and he turned all the poison on the monster itself, attacking it with its poison. Apparently it was a corrosive poison, but either way it didn't affect him. One surprising thing happened, and the monster was still coming at him. For an insect, it was carrying the pride of a warrior. Kai used his sword technique's second form, called Lightning Strike. As a fellow warrior, he responded to the monster with his fastest sword technique so that the beast could rest in peace. After defeating the Hornet, his first trial was cleared and he had a reward. Kai didn't expect that there would be a reward. Something like a treasure chest appeared, and inside there was a flame sword. It employs ambient magic to ignite targets it slashes. He was pretty surprised. He wasn't exactly hurting for weapons. His indestructible one was enough. He had an idea, and he roasted the bugs with his sword. He decided to try it on the next floor. Moving on to the next trial, he saw that the floor was a lava field. It wasn't that bad, actually. As a trial, this was the kind of challenge he was expecting, but he couldn't go forward as his shoes weren't heat resistant. Speaking of resistance, he had an idea that it could be an interesting experiment. Conveniently, there was a return magic circle on B10. He opened his item box and stored his shoes. His interesting plan was to go barefoot, but the moment he stepped on the floor, his feet burned. He prepared more and more elixirs until he started to get used to the heat. After trying it countless times, he could withstand the heat for about 10 seconds now. A notification came and he acquired a less heat-resistant skill. He decided to push straight through the heart absorption because time and elixir were unlimited. He kept up that pace and charged ahead. He passed and he continued his journey to clear this dungeon. He finished the floors one by one while acquiring new skills and finally arrived at floor 300. He has so many skills now. With this, the resistance skill set was almost completed. No matter where he went, he felt invincible now. He decided to move to the next floor. He also picked up a Thunder Beast glove but didn't know what it was, and had been using them as a towel. As he kept walking, he heard water sounds. He thought the staircase was leading down. When he followed the sound, he saw the Thunder Tiger King, the final trial of the upper levels. As the Tiger King rushed to attack him, it couldn't even touch Kai and broke into pieces. Kai used his first form Brink of Death to not dealing with it. He thought it reeked of weaklings, and he was right. Suddenly, he heard a voice saying that Thunder Tiger King's defeat had been confirmed. The voice sounded shocked. He looked below, and an enormous fish was talking. A special bonus had been awarded for defeating the Thunder King, and it looked more promising. He suddenly fell into the water and was surrounded by many monsters, and he fell right into the monster's mouth. He stopped himself, and while controlling his breath, he thought how incredible this fight was. It was his first underwater battle, and he got a bit tangled down there. When he looked high, he realized that getting back to where he was might be the biggest trial on this floor. The voice that notified him of what was happening always seemed a bit uneasy, while announcing that the final trial of the upper floors had been cleared, and he achieved a super rare condition. Kai noticed that too and said she sounded like she was stuttering. The voice told him to shut up and said there was something weird about him. To think he would also get a super rare treasure test hidden within that fish he sliced up was unexpected. He wasn't sure which one was the super rare one, so he started with the smaller chest. There was a book about magic tomes. He wondered if someone like him with incompetent skill could even use magic. If he could, this might be quite fine. He moved on to the next one, and it was a Raikiri, a twin blade. The sword felt so natural, and the grip was like the wooden swords from his swordsmanship dojo. He had a feeling this sword would be his new partner. It had been 7,612 years since the game started, and from here on, he was in the Dragon Zone. It was his perfect opportunity to test out Raikiri. The sword fit perfectly into his hands and harmonized with his swordsmanship. He was amazed by how good the sword was and sliced the dragons like they were insects. After killing a bunch of them, he arrived on the 350th floor. Compared to the dragons so far, this one was quite small. However, its eyes exude immense pressure incomparable to the previous weaklings. As the voice announced his goal, which was to defeat Golden Dragon Fafnir, it sounded a bit personal. He didn't care about it and started the soul-boiling duel to death. In the next scene, we see the door opening and Kai is pretty worn out. For the first time, he lost. He had no idea that all his slashes would be nullified like that, but he was even more encouraged by this defeat and decided that it would be his next goal to defeat this thing. He returned to the ground floor and had an elixir bath. He managed to stop the bleeding and realized he would never get used to the sensation of his flesh regenerating. Even so, as a prerequisite, he would need to deal with that physical nullification. If his blade wouldn't work, then there would be other means, something other than physical attacks. The only thing that came to his mind was magic. He should have a few magic tomes from those clear rewards, so he opened his item box. Inside the magic tome, there were quite a few. Since it was his first time, he decided to go with an introduction to magic tomes. He started reading it and realized it was no use. Because of his incompetent gift, he couldn't form a contract. He wondered if he could acquire magic through official methods, but there was no response. He decided to read the original text directly to acquire it while drinking elixirs. Time was infinite after all. He had a notification again saying he had a new magic poison resistance skill. This headache and nausea were due to magic intoxication. If he had developed a resistance, then this might be doable. It had been 7,673 years since the game started, and he had been reading a lot of books. He looked 60 years old, but he was finally starting to understand magic. Magic can broadly be classified as general attributes and special attributes. Beyond the basic and advanced attributes, everything else falls under the special category. Acquiring general attributes requires innate talent unrelated to gifts. Without talent, it's impossible to form contracts with magical texts, no matter how much you train. However, magic also includes a concept called non-attribute magic. This involves imbuing objects or organic matter, like the human body, with magical energy to use its power. This only requires manipulating magic power, so no innate talent is necessary, which means Kai could acquire it. He was so happy that he could keep getting stronger. After 8,167 years, his recovery was still slow. He realized that whilst he was going through magical literature. The human body is a massive assembly of tiny cells, which combine into tissues that form organs necessary for life. Non-attribute magic techniques like body reinforcement and ultra-regeneration currently target entire tissues. If he could specify magic at the cellular core level within this range, theoretically, it should be possible to use true long-range attacks. With that, he was ready to practice. He was grateful that the system recharges monsters over time. This thing was going to be his practice dummy again. As the monster attacked him, he used non-attribute magic called body reinforcement and adamantine strength. Kai was pretty surprised because this level of pressure didn't even cause injuries anymore. He took out his sword and used magic weapon reinforcement, demonic armament. By imbuing the entire weapon with non-attribute magical energy at the molecular level, Raikiri now functions as a magical blade, and even physical immunity wouldn't stop it. He apologized to the monster because it was about to experience the blade he had prepared for Fafnir. The monster's upper half turned to dust, and Kai realized that dragons other than Fafnir can't even be used for practice anymore. 2 new monsters have been replenished beyond the wall. However, they were weaker than the previous ones. It would be a waste to use demonic armament on them, which meant he would work on advancing this one instead. After 11,065 years since the game started, Kai acquired Kairyu throwing technique, Ultimate Stage. It was about time to beat that dragon because he had perfected his long-range attacks and earned the title of Dragon Slayer. He had done all he could, and now he left the rest to fate. With his current skills, he faced the Fafnir. The voice spoke again, saying Fafnir, with her physical immunity, was unbeatable. Kai asked if they should find out. As he made eye contact with her, he felt how irresistible it was. He had longed for this day, to see those eyes of his once more, to witness the fresh blood spraying from her neck. This was, in a way, a love that lasted 3,500 years. Every single day he yearned and pined so much. He thought he would drown in his own obsession for a moment, so he was more than ready. As Fafnir attacked him, he managed to dodge her attack this time. And even the dragon was surprised. He wanted to show the dragon what he had achieved just to beat her. He dedicated an enhancement just for her. 3.500 years was a lot for him not to lose his mind. So he was talking to the dragon about how he yearned for her so much that he dreamed endlessly of the sweet moment they would meet, thousands of years later. He was ready to have a real fight with this dragon. But the least expected thing happened. The dragon surrendered. Kai froze for a moment. He thought she was lying and said she was kidding with him. He tried to convince the dragon to fight with him, at least cross blades, but the dragon said it was impossible. Kai felt betrayed because he had spent 3,500 years researching magic to counter her fangs. But now the dragon was crying her eyes out. A notification appeared saying the 8th trial was now cleared since the golden dragon had surrendered. After a little more anger attack, both he and the system accepted that it was over, and the system revealed his special reward. A notification appeared informing him that the golden dragon was looking at him as if it wanted to join his party. It asked if he would let her join. Kai didn't think the dragon wanted that, as she was crying, and more than anything there was no way a creature this massive could possibly follow him. But considering this dungeon, he should assume it could adapt to accompany him. It seemed like this dragon could speak the language of humans, and after spending over 10,000 years completely alone, he started to find that annoying woman's voice comforting, and he was desperate to have an accompany. Thinking that this might be a stroke of luck, he tapped yes, and the dragon started glowing. He thought it was adjusting her size. Dragon got so much smaller and turned into a tiny little girl who called him master. Kai did not expect her to be this small. In the next scene, Kai wore his special clear bonus to defeat Fafnir. There was a dragon cloak, dragon clothes that were made out of the dragon's parts, and dragon boots. The clothes he was wearing didn't even retain their original shape, so he was grateful to have a full set of sturdy ones. Fafnir called him and asked what she should do with his old clothes. She called his clothes trash, so Kai was a bit offended, so he warned her. He said they had trained together, so he wanted to keep it as a memento. Besides, the item box had unlimited storage. He even set the clothes as an important item to avoid accidental disposal. After that, they went back to the first floor with Fafnir. He showed her the little house he made using materials he gathered from the labyrinth. Fafnir's face was so disgusted and her tummy started growling. Kai told her not to worry because there was food to eat. He had marbled beef from the Thunder Ox on the underground floor 29, and asked what she was thinking. Scared, Fafnir said the long buildup was so annoying that she was about to snap. Kai commented that she looked cute, but her tone and attitude were terrible. He took out his sword and explained that it was something he had gotten a long time ago. It wasn't useful in battle, but he finally found a use for it. He used Kairyu cooking technique, a one-sword style secret move, and grilled the meat perfectly. It took him 10 years to achieve this searing color. Fafnir was amazed by Kai, her mouth watered, and she asked if she could eat it. He told her to go ahead and added that the seasoning was just salt, but he was particular about it. Underground floors 170 to 180 contain seawater, but the water quality varies because of the different monsters inhabiting those levels, so he made his own salt from that seawater. But Fafnir didn't seem to care if the meat had salt in it because she almost ate it with Kai's hand. Kai was glad that Fafnir found it delicious and was surprised that he would need to use an elixir before a meal. They continued to eat their meal while chatting and had a cute moment together. It was Kai's usual, ordinary cooking he had grown accustomed to, but for some reason this meal felt unbelievably delicious, as if it had been 10,000 years since he had last enjoyed one. It was a very strange feeling, something that had been missing within him for 10,000 years. Suddenly it quietly returned to its original place. At the same time, the obsession and anxiety over power that had dominated him up to this point melted away like shadows at sunset. The thirst for blood that followed through him when he confronted the golden dragon was no longer visible when facing her radiant smile. He mumbled to himself that the fourth special clear bonus was Kai Heinemann rediscovering himself. Fafnir heard him and asked what he meant. He said it just meant that Fafnir and he could now have a mutually beneficial relationship. In the next scene, they arrived at the 400th floor, and it had been 13,000 years since the game started. This monster was called an elephant because Kai had seen it in a book before. The monster was laughing and could talk. Its name was Giramekala, and it said it was a true evil god. Fafnir and Kai didn't seem so intimidated by the monster. Kai asked if she was done with her steak, and she said she would eat it later. Fafnir's whole expression changed and said she was going to beat the crap out of the monster. Kai told her to wait because she was still as violent as ever, but she was actually taking after Kai. Kai decided to step in here and set an example, so he told her to watch him for a moment. He told the monster that it wasn't good to throw away its life so carelessly and advised it to surrender. The monster seemed puzzled. Kai said he wasn't fond of killing. As long as it didn't try to harm him, he was committed to let everything, from bugs to dragons, to go free. This made the monster even angrier, and it told him that it was the servant of the supreme god, Mara-sama, the greatest god and creator of heaven and earth. It was the first vassal of Mara, holding the highest rank among the gods. It seemed like the monster wasn't going to give up, so Kai threw away his meat and killed it with one move. He said it was both long-winded and annoying. If it had just given a short refusal, at least its bones would have been left. Fafnir congratulated his instant annihilation. Kai tried to explain to her, but she took it all wrong. Kai then told her that it wasn't okay to direct murderous intent toward everyone she met, but she just said she was hungry. He said he was going to grill some meat for her. After killing the monster, he got a subjugation encyclopedia. Kai was pretty shocked and wondered if that thing could have been the floor boss. A notification appeared, asking if he would like to save the soul of Giramekala in the encyclopedia. Fafnir was about to say yes, but Kai stopped her and told her to be careful. They pressed yes, and the monster's picture and information appeared in the book. He figured that this was how he could summon the monsters he registered. If it's usable after testing, he might try completing the encyclopedia from the first floor again. After that, they went back to the surface because Kai had something he wanted to try. At their base, Fafnir asked what he was going to do, and he said he was going to summon the Giramekala they had just caught. It took her a minute to figure out who Giramekala was. Kai commanded the subjugation encyclopedia to release Giramekala, and after a circle light, the monster appeared right in the middle of the room. The monster seemed confused. Kai and Fafnir were also surprised. Kai explained that the monster he captured had its soul and summoned it from the book, and from today, it was going to serve him. The monster refused to serve him. Kai took out his stick and said he would train himself. After wandering between life and death about 10,000 times, he might become a bit more obedient. 51,000 years after the game started, Giri the monster was on his knees for Kai's orders. Kai was a tough teacher. He beat the monster just for being too slow with his response. The monster apologized, and when he asked who he was, he responded that he was a worthless bug crawling on the ground. Giri's personality was exactly the opposite of what it was when Kai first met him. Fafnir woke up, and Giri was once again slow with his response, so Kai beat him again. Kai told him to do 500,000 push-ups over breakfast as a punishment. 1 hour later, Giri finished his push-ups. Kai told him that they were heading back underground to continue filling the encyclopedia. He also wanted to test this thing they got yesterday. The divine seal gloves he got could tone down his abilities at will. If he loves his stats to the limit, gets beaten to near death, and then wins, his stats will slightly increase. While he was gone, Kai ordered Giri to clean the house and restock supplies. 65,000 years later, they arrived at floor 700. There were no trees, no rocks, only a blood-red sky. There was something over there, and the weather was pretty hot. The monster said he didn't recognize him, and for a no-name, he had made it impressively far. Because of the divine gloves lowering his stats so much, he couldn't gauge the enemy's strength based on intent or aura anymore. Previously, just by facing them, he would be able to estimate their rank. It seemed the higher the rank, the deeper the killing intent was. He asked Fafnir what she was thinking about that thing, and the only thing she could say was that it looked delicious. He tried to explain to her, but she could only think about how they were going to cook him. He told Fafnir not to act so greedy about food as a lady. When they called the monster a freak, it got angry and rushed towards them to attack, but Kai told it that it was just a figure of speech. The monster told him that he would never forgive him. Fafnir took out her guns and said she would take care of this. The monster tried to burn her with its flames, but Fafnir told it not to underestimate her and to dodge its flames. With Lion Sky Slash, she made enough damage to not let him move, and then he was dead by the second attack. Kai clapped his hands for her. Fafnir was just thinking about cooking the meat immediately. Kai said he would roast it now while taking out his sword, but the monster started to burn on its own, or so they thought it was, because after a few minutes they realized it was regenerating. Kai told Fafnir to make sure it's dead this time, but the monster said he was immortal. When Kai heard the word immortal, he told Fafnir to wait. That was the perfect opponent for him. An immortal bird that never dies was the best. Kai's blood started boiling because it had been a while since he felt this thrill. He wanted to test out if he was truly immortal. First, he was planning to pull out all its organs while it was still alive. Then they were going to slice it into tiny pieces down to the size of a fingernail. Then, he was going to use Raikiri to incinerate it and turn it to dust. He was looking forward to seeing how long its life force could hold out. However, the bird was a disappointment because when he diced it into bite-sized chunks, it died. He couldn't believe this was true. The notification appeared and asked if he wanted to add Phoenix's soul to the book. Kai was so angry that he accidentally scared Fafnir. When he realized what kind of image he was giving, he immediately turned to his smiley mode and said that using that kind of language was not okay. He only said it now to show her what not to do. Fafnir was shocked because he also broke the transparent notification board. Kai was still trying to convince her that this kind of behavior wasn't okay for a lady. Fafnir seemed to understand him and called him crappy. Even though Kai knew what she meant, he patted her head. This was the classic pattern of bad parenting. After settling on this, they went back to the first floor. In the next scene, Fafnir was an alone dragon. She was a divine dragon with godlike status, but she couldn't even remember why she was in this labyrinth. Someone once asked her to guard this labyrinth, and during that time, someone said something very important to her, something truly precious to Fafnir. And so, Fafnir stayed in the cold labyrinth all alone, for an unimaginably long time. She waited, hoping someone would come to challenge her. And then, that moment finally came. Her master arrived. With a single swing of his sword, her master melted the wall behind Fafnir into a liquid mess. It was supposed to be protected by a barrier that no normal attack could breach. At that moment, Fafnir was terrified of her master, but she remembered those words someone had said to her a long time ago. One day, someone would come to set her free. And when that person appeared, that person told her to follow them. From that moment on, her life with her master began. After becoming his companion, Kai didn't seem scary anymore. He was so kind and incredibly skilled at cooking. For the first time in forever, Fafnir had someone to talk to, delicious food to eat, and got gentle pats on her head. She was so happy and had so much fun that she forgot what loneliness felt like. Fafnir came to adore her master deeply. Since then, they had always been together. They adventured together, trained together, read books together, and even slept side by side. After eating her dinner like a good girl, Kai patted her head and said that his cooking had improved thanks to her. But if they kept eating breakfast, it would be lunchtime soon, so Kai told her that it was time to head out. He also said he packed lunch so they would eat again at noon. Giri greeted Kai and said, "Starting today, 2 new retainers have joined their Kai army, and they both bowed to him." Kai smiled and said they would be counting on them. Before leaving, Kai didn't forget to tell them what they were going to do while Kai and Fafnir were gone. Many monsters respected Kai, and seeing him honored made Fafnir feel proud too. After another one-hit victory, Fafnir complimented Kai as always, but just for a second, she noticed a dull expression on her master's face and was shocked. Kai's expression immediately changed and turned into his happy, funny mood again. She saw how Kai looked very lonely sometimes. One night, Fafnir woke up because she needed to use the bathroom. At that moment next to her, Kai wasn't there. She thought she had been left behind. She thought she was alone again, even though her master would never ever do that. She jumped out of bed and frantically searched for him. Kai was outside leaning against the railing, gazing blankly into the unseen dark expanse beyond the labyrinth. He wore that same lonely expression he sometimes showed Fafnir. She quietly watched him from where she stood. He softly called out a name she didn't recognize. A name that didn't belong to anyone in the Kai army, but it was someone he cherished deeply. It was so frightening that she couldn't stop her tears. Each time he spoke that name, it felt as though Kai, standing before her, was disappearing into some far-off, unknown world. She couldn't just stand there and cry, so she opened the door and went to his side. Kai asked if she had a scary dream and said he also had a dream about the past. After calming her down, he put her to bed and hugged her. While hugging, Fafnir asked if he would always stay with her, and he said yes. She asked over and over again, and he always responded positively. Kai told her that he had never lied to her and only ever told her the truth. He promised her that they would always be together. After Kai's promise, she was so happy and so relieved that she suddenly felt sleepy. But before she fell asleep, she wished to have this happiness last forever. In this scene, Kai Heinemann cleared the trial of the gods, and as a reward for clearing the trial, his memories would now be forcibly reconnected to just before this trial began. Kai's journey began when he was on a trip to the royal capital. He had been pursued by mysterious black beasts and a red-haired man and stumbled into a dungeon called the Trial of the Gods. If he didn't clear it, he would never be able to leave. Fortunately, time was frozen both inside and outside the dungeon. He fought through countless monsters, forming bonds along the way, and somehow managed to escape. It took him 100,000 years and 7 days to clear, but in the end, he did it. When he got out of the dungeon, Fafnir and Astaroth came with him. Despite being the final boss, Astaroth saw his status and, to his utter disbelief, surrendered before the battle began. Fafnir noticed someone and warned Kai. It was the man who summoned a bunch of monsters to kill Kai before he got into the dungeon. From his memory, this red-haired guy should have been incredibly strong, but he didn't look at the part at all. The man noticed the girls and said both of them were total knockouts. Fafnir and Astaroth wanted to kill him immediately, but Kai stopped them. He wanted to ask him something first. He said those divine sealing gloves should help him hold back so he could handle them. The man seemed furious, seeing a little boy talking about holding back while fighting with him. But Kai noticed that he wasn't even worth drawing his sword for, so he just broke his bones. The man couldn't move his hands and ordered his wolves to take him down. Kai used his true-style swordsmanship sword technique and killed every single one of them. Astaroth wasn't even surprised because they were so weak. Kai didn't kill him and just tied him up really good. He was wearing insignia of the Empire's Summoner Corps. When questioned about his actions, he confessed without resistance. A noble of the Amelia Kingdom, Frakton, had colluded with the Empire. Together, they plotted to kidnap the first princess, Rosemary Lotto Amelia. To execute the plan tonight, the Empire sent the Sword Emperor Ziggier Gastrea and the Summoner NZ. That was the reason why this Empire's Summoner Corps soldier was wandering in the kingdom's territory. Kai felt compelled to protect Princess Rose, and while he was at it, he thought he could fight the Sword Emperor. Astaroth asked if he was thinking of something reckless, because that was the look he had when he was excited. They were right, he wanted to fight the Sword Emperor. He took out his subjugation encyclopedia to create a distraction for the Empire's forces in the area. He ordered his grasshoppers that the targets were summoners wearing black robes and accompanied by black panthers, and they were going to kill them if necessary. Astaroth was once again impressed by Kai. The monsters started to appear in the camping area where Princess Rose was staying, and she heard the noises outside. Anna came and told her to prepare immediately. Rose asked who the enemy was, and she explained that it was the Empire. They had a traitor among them, and they must escape at once. But when they got out of the tent, they saw Lord Frakton right in front of them. Rose was shocked and in disbelief that her brother might have betrayed him. Lord Frakton stated that if Princess Rose marries the Empire's third prince and Prince Gilbert ascends the throne, their kingdom would be secure. He tried to explain himself by saying that everything he had done had been for the sake of their country. Rose told him that if achieving meant harming his people, then he was nothing but a traitor. Arnold came and said he wouldn't allow him to do that. He apologized for being late and told Frakton to prepare himself before attacking him. Ziggier Gastrea protected Frakton and asked him to have a soul-shaking duel to the death. This was the battle between the Lion King and the Sword Emperor. They were evenly matched, but then a snake appeared on Arnold's neck, attempting to make a nervous system attack. Ziggier was furious because he interfered with their battle. The man with the snake said he had no intention of indulging his pointless hobbies. Ziggier asked if he dared to mock the honor of a swordsman. He said he was merely prioritizing the Emperor's degree. Arnold seemed to be in a bad situation and looked at Anna. Anna understood what he wanted her to do, and told Rose that while the enemy was distracted, they were going to run into the forest at full speed. Rose didn't want to leave Arnold behind, but ensuring the princess's safety was the top priority right now. But Frakton's men captured Rose and Anna, saying they were not going anywhere. One of them asked if they could take Anna, and the Snake Man said yes. As they started assaulting Anna, the Snake Man told Frakton to leave the princess's restraint to him. Rose was traumatized by what she was seeing. A knight selling out their country, harming and disgracing its people, and watching her friend being touched by gross men. All she wanted was someone to come and save them, whether it's a god or a demon. At that moment, Anna saw the man who was on top of her, and his neck was broken in less than a second. The same happened with the man who held Rose. Rose was shocked while Kai was wondering why this was so easy. She couldn't believe it was Kai, the incompetent, in front of her. In this world, when everyone turns 13, they receive God's blessing, a gift. Some are blessed as sword saints and others as spears kings. However, the gift bestowed upon Kai Heinemann was the weakest and most insignificant gift in history. Kai helped Rose to stand up after saving them. Rose's knights alarmed everyone that monsters were coming, and they should run away, but Fafnir had already taken care of them. Astaroth took Frakton with her and told Kai that he should leave the cleaning up of those small fries to them. Rose was still puzzled. She would often hear about Kai from her best friend Rena, and as she knew, Kai had always been a weak and innocent-looking boy. It was hard to believe he was the holder of a useless gift. She suddenly remembered Anna and Arnold and looked at them. There were slimes all over their body which she thought were monsters, but Kai explained to her that those were healing slimes. He told them to stay still until their wounds were fully healed. The numbness was fading and they were feeling stronger now. Rose was so happy that she was fine. Arnold asked Kai if he could summon creatures and he said it wasn't summoning. He patted the monster he brought and Arnold figured that those were companions. Enz came and asked what this disgrace was. He was pretty furious that a bunch of men couldn't even capture one woman. Ziggier told him that this is why they should have handled it themselves from the start. Ziggier noticed there was still a swordsman left and said he would take on this sword emperor himself. He told Enz not to interfere, and if he did, he threatened to kill him. Meanwhile, Kai already noticed from his stance and movements that he was disappointed. Rose and Arnold, unaware of Kai's strength, tried to stop Kai. On the other hand, Kai grabbed a wooden stick and told him that he wasn't even worth pointing his blade at and asked him to allow him to teach him a lesson. Ziggier became more triggered and jumped right on Kai. Kai stopped his attack with the wooden stick in his hand, and Anna was shocked to see him fight the Sword Emperor with just a branch. Rose asked Arnold why the Sword Emperor's attacks couldn't even touch Kai. Arnold was as shocked as the others, and he guessed that it might be because their swordsmanship skills were worlds apart. It was like the difference between someone who's trained for millennia and a complete novice. It wasn't just talent, though. Rose knew this was the result of relentless training. As Ziggier became more furious, his attacks started to weaken, and Kai threw his sword away with ease. Kai told him that it was clever that he had talent with the sword, but he should think about why the previous Sword Emperor entrusted that title to him. He spared his life this time, considering his potential as a Sword Emperor, and told him to return to the Empire. Ziggier started sobbing, and Enz realized how dangerous Kai was. He knew Kai would become a threat to their empire soon, and wanted to kill him, so he summoned the Spirit King Ifrit. Spirit King appeared, but Kai told Enz that his pathetic flames can't burn him. Kai called Girimakala to teach this so-called Spirit King a lesson. Girimakala came, and the so-called king was even terrified by how huge he was. Giri was so happy that he summoned him once more. Kai ordered him to educate that malicious spirit for him. As he commanded, Giri did what he had to do. Enz started begging him to join the empire and offered him wealth and glory, but Kai sliced him. He said he didn't need it. There was no value in the words of someone who uses their subordinates as bait. He told Fafnir and Astaroth that they had no more business here. Frackton screamed, telling him to wait and asking him to come serve under their next king, Prince Gilbert. With his power, the prince would ensure he lived in absolute comfort. Kai simply responded that he wasn't interested, and that a royal family that discriminates based on the superiority of gifts or lineage was nothing but pests. Anna was mad after those words because he was also mocking the Amelia royal family. Rose stopped her from attacking Kai and told her that it was fine. For the first time, she had met someone who shared her views. Instead of relying on royalty or nobility, each citizen should participate in governance. Together, they could create a better country and a better world. That was Rose's dream all along. Kai told her that this would mean giving up being a princess, but Rose didn't mind that. She decided that as the first princess of Amelia, she would appoint him as her royal guard. Arnold and Anna were both shocked. Anna asked if she was seriously appointing a useless traitor as the royal guard to the heir to the throne. Rose responded that Arnold was her father's royal guard. There was no one left in the palace she could truly trust, and no one more suitable. He was uninterested in wealth or fame and had strength surpassing the Sword Emperor. More than anything, she wanted Kai to be her royal guard. She asked him to put a kiss on her hand if he accepted this offer. Kai held her hand and stated that until she found a proper royal guard, he was going to humor this charade. Astaroth couldn't help but realize that Kai always gets involved in troublesome things, but Kai pointed out that by following this princess, they might fight stronger opponents. In the next scene, Rose was writing a letter to her best friend Rena. She said she was heading to the great city of Balsi to hand over Lord Frackton, and she had entrusted this letter to Arnold. She imagined the news about her being attacked by a lord colluding with the Empire had greatly shocked her. Her childhood friend Kai drove away all the Imperial soldiers and was accompanying her right now, which was very reassuring. They were currently staying in the post town of Papla. Kai told Rose that the king ordered them to stay in this town for a few weeks until it was confirmed that Balsi was safe. Even so, Rose said she was glad he accepted the role of royal guard. If he had refused, they would have had no choice but to appoint Sword Saint Rena Grotta. Kai wondered if he felt compelled to protect Rose because she and Rena were best friends. Kai understood that she didn't want to send her best friend on a dangerous mission. He, on the other hand, wanted to protect his childhood friend. Rose confirmed him. Kai said it was fine, better than being kept in the dark. He reminded her that he was only acting as her substitute royal guard, but she was still grateful. Rose wanted to ask him for one more favor. After hearing what Rose wanted, Kai went and woke Astaroth and Fafnir. He told them that they were going to explore the town and shop. Astaroth was naked, and Kai realized that she was a woman. Fafnir woke up too and greeted Rose. While making her hair, Rose asked Fafnir and Kai to look for ingredients to make a cake. Fafnir excitedly asked if she could make one, and she said she would make it from the heart to show her gratitude for the other day. Kai told Nemea to protect the princess while they were in town. As they set off, Anna wondered if they would be okay. If Rose hadn't suggested this, they wouldn't have left the inn in their efforts to protect her. They acted indifferently, but they were very serious at heart. Papla was a post town nestled within the vast silk forest. Hunters from around the world pass through, and the town thrives with trade centered around its specialty, the red Papla fruit. It was also a place of freedom where persecuted beast folk gathered. Kai had heard countless stories from her mother, who was a hunter. This was one of the places he had always wanted to visit. He thought registering as a hunter someday to earn money wouldn't be a bad idea. Astaroth noticed a commotion, and Kai wanted to check out too. People were gathered around a man who was holding something called the Papla fruit, harvested this year. They noticed that the servant behind the noble used some kind of magic to rot the fruit. The nobleman tasted it and was completely unsatisfied with how it tasted. He said feeding him a rotten fruit was the same as giving it to his highness, and told the man who gave the fruit that he was his enemy now. The man begged for forgiveness, but the man told him to prepare for all people to be executed for this treachery, or they could pay 50 million ors in reparations. That kind of money was something this town could never afford. Suddenly, two people came. One of them was the leader of one of the 4 sacred guilds chosen by Hiro Mashiro. The other one was Copper the Sage, his subordinate. The noble seemed interested, but he still didn't want to overlook the actions of those townspeople. Copper told him that his Highness Girlbert was a kind soul, and he wouldn't want to see the people suffer. In contrast to them, the Coin Guild, he asked him to calm his anger. The noble said this time he would let it slide for coin's sake. Astaroth and Kai already noticed that they were plotting some kind of scam, and felt good that they didn't get involved. Suddenly, Fen jumped out of Fafnir's arms and started running. In an alley, a beast folk was being bullied. They told him that they were never going to buy Papla fruit from him again. Older ones came and said if they were going to kill him, they could leave it to them. Seeing the violent gang Parasite, the boy tried to gather the fruit he was selling. One of them smashed the Papla fruit and said it was inconvenient for the Zaruba family to stay alive. The Papla fruit's his father, and he grew should have been first-rate, so those words were so offensive to him. Before they attacked the boy, Fen appeared, trying to protect the boy. The boy was shocked that a dog was protecting him. The gang told the dog to get out of the way. Fafnir's voice was heard calling Fen, and when they turned to look, they saw Fafnir and Astaroth. When one of them told me that tourists shouldn't stick their noses into the town's business, Kai jumped on him, saying he was going to stick more than just his nose into it. The gang was shocked that he had the guts to mess with them and started attacking him with water shots and fireballs. Knowing they only needed to leave one of them alive, Kai finished them with one move. Kai then went and healed the boy's wounds with the slime. He told him to thank Fen for it because he was the one who found him. He ordered Astaroth and Fafnir to take the boy to Rose's place and hide him there. They asked what he was going to do, and he didn't answer. He turned to the one he didn't kill and asked to meet their boss. It seemed like the rotten fruit wasn't the only thing stinking of conspiracy in this town. At night, Rose finished baking the cake and it smelled amazing. Everyone loved how it tasted. Rose wondered if Kai wouldn't be back tonight because of his investigation. Astaroth responded that he was a bit too soft-hearted. She wanted to let Kai taste it since he was the one who taught her the recipe. Fafnir, finishing her plate, said she could always make it again. Meanwhile, there was a boy doing something a few kilometers from Papla town. He was trying to revive the legendary beast. He planned to make the beast obey his command and devour everything in his path. Kai felt the presence of something while beating up the Parasite gang boss. In the next scene, Anna was scolding Kai for interfering with town matters. She was mad because he put Rose in danger. Kai apologized for that, but this conspiracy involved nobles connected to the Amelia royal family and asked if the princess would have stayed silent about this anyway. Rose asked if there was anything she could do to help. He wanted her to gather people and they would hold a beastfolk information session. The foundation of Papla town's prosperity and trade lies in the high-quality agricultural goods produced by beastfolk. Nobles who wanted to seize and monopolize the farmland, guilds seeking fame, a mayor who discriminated against bestfolk, and thugs who would do anything for money devised a plan to drive the beastfolk out of the town, and there was proof. At the pub, the noble who ate the rotten fruit was being congratulated for his performance earlier, and they admitted that they used magic to rot the crops. He was sure no one would suspect they knew each other, and in a few days the bandit group they had infiltrated would stage an attack on the town as planned. After that, it was time for them to shine. They were planning to save the town from the so-called beastfolk rebellion staged by the bandits. The beastfolk would all be captured and sold as slaves, and they would bribe a Parasite to handle the cleanup. Parasite revealed everything to them, including the full details and meeting locations. The monster who explained those to the people was Beelzebub. Kai's royal subordinate, expert in interrogation and torture. The town people were shocked by what they heard. Anna whispered to Rose that reporting this attack to the king and requesting reinforcements would take too much time. Kai wanted them to leave it to him, but they weren't sure. The beast was worried because his father and mother had collapsed from the stress, and no one would believe such a terrible truth. Kai patted his head and asked what he wanted to do. The boy got the courage he needed and screamed that he couldn't forgive them for using their Papla fruits like that, and he wanted to protect this town from those guys. The people seemed to have realized that the Papla fruit had never rotted before, and it didn't make sense at all. Everyone believed them now. Kai said this was the trust his family had built up. It was undoubtedly his strength. Shira started crying and thanked Kai, but he said there was no need to thank him, as this town was his to protect. One of the people said they were just farmers, and most of them were women and children. They didn't even know how to defend themselves, let alone fight. They didn't know what they were supposed to do. Kai stated that he could easily wipe out the bandit group himself, but he can't stay here and protect them or this town forever. The place for the beast folk must be won by the strength of the beast folk themselves. Otherwise, it was meaningless. Kai stated that he wouldn't hold back his support for those who had the resolve to fight for their freedom and future and asked who was with him. Everyone cheered for Kai. Rose wondered what Kai was planning to do. A few days later, inside the Silk Forest caves, the boy said reviving the demon beast Toetsu and unleashing it on Papla town was an easy job for them, Calamity. The woman behind him told him that a 100 million ore job wasn't cheap and he must make sure to complete it. In just a few hours, Papla town was going to be a wasteland. He said that, unlike their weak demons, they didn't have any reason to fail. His name was Dilma, and he commanded the demon there to melt away. As he finished his words, the demon started melting like ice cream. The woman was worried, so Dilma told him to relax because he was going to let the rest of them live. Dilma then told her to leave while he was in a good mood. The woman told her subordinates to move out to the ballroom. Meanwhile, Kai was watching them. He learned what they were up to and wondered if they caught the scent of the festivities. He wanted to see the results of the beast folk's training first. A man who disguised himself as a beast folk was ordered to only attack the beast folk, but he wanted to take everything in sight. At the first house he entered, Shira appeared. The man told him that a kid should be asleep at this house and wanted to attack him, but Shira was so fast and he handled him professionally. A few days earlier, right after the beast folk information session, one of the monsters Kai summoned was going to train anyone who desired strength. Fafnir said she would slow time in this area to 1/500th and told the beast folk to call her Professor FAF. According to Kai, the bandit group's size doesn't match the number of beast folk in town. If they master a one-strike sure-hit technique and repel them, it would be their victory. It was important to show both the ringleaders and the entire town their strength. In the next scene, the noble bastard took a beautiful woman to spend his night. But the woman was a beast folk, so she took him down in a second. Everyone collectively defeated the bandits and showed them that they could protect the town with their own hands. Astaroth commented on how the bandits were weaker than she expected. Rose was still in shock that they had trained the beast folk in such a short time. She was glad that it seemed to be working out, but Kai told her that it was early to feel relieved. He told her to stay and watch. The leader of Coin came and asked what was with this commotion in the middle of the night. He said he was going to deliver justice for those the beast folk attacked. Shira knew that those guys were tougher than the last ones, and they were accusing them falsely. Kai came and asked if those were the bandits he was talking about. He said he could call them the beast folk cosplay bandits. He asked one of them if it was Coin who approached him and told him to attack the town, and the man immediately confessed that it was. Coin's friend said the townsfolk wouldn't believe what the bandits say. They wanted to believe in Coin, but when they thought about why the bandits were dressed as beast folk, they remained confused. Kai explained to everyone that the bandits had all been captured by the beast folk, and if everyone learns of their betrayal, they would all respond the same way. It was Coin who orchestrated everything. Coin told him that he was the one plotting everything behind the scenes. He tried to attack him and asked his name. Kai held his chains he threw to him to attack and said he was just Kai Heinemann. Kai returned his weapon to him and took them down with their own weapon. Kai said he was just lending a hand to those in trouble. Kai knew he wanted to be a hero and said he would lend him a hand with an intimidating face. In the next scene, two people rush towards the town while discussing whether that person, gift holder Kai, is really the most incompetent in the world. He, the other one, confirmed that it was in fact Kai, the son of the hunter Maria Heinemann. That same Kai was now Princess Rosemary's royal guard and involved in the town uproar. One of them had seen Kai's swordsmanship before since he was part of a team with Maria. It was hard to believe that a timid boy could have destroyed Parasite. However, if this information comes directly from Princess Rose, Kai must be here. Just a few days ago, a letter from Rose arrived at the Hunter Guild branch in Papla. requesting cooperation in stopping a conspiracy orchestrated by Count Getty, the town mayor, and Coin, aimed at framing the beast folk of the town. If a guild under the hero's protection, like one of the 4 sacred guilds, Coin was involved in such a scheme, it was a significant issue affecting the prestige of the Hunter Guild. Thus, they were dispatched. One of them was the 1st Investigation Department Chief Johnson, and the other was an A-rank hunter, Olga. They must capture the masterminds behind this case first and uncover what was happening in this town. They saw thugs bringing a beast woman to the mayor's house and wondered if it could be Coin. Johnson told Olga to secure the count and the mayor, and he was going to search for the leaders of the thieves and Coin. When Olga entered the mayor's room, she saw him being thrown out by the little beast woman. The woman asked if she was the Hunter Guild princess Rose summoned, and when Olga confirmed her, she smiled and said she was going to head out to rejoin her companions. She left them to her, and said that if she hadn't arrived, she would have left them with one of Kai's subordinates. Olga was shocked and puzzled at the same time. Meanwhile, at the Papla town, there was a group resembling Coin outside the town's walls. Johnson was watching them, and wondered what was happening. One of the hunters came and reported that the thieves attacked the town, and most of them were fought off and captured by the beast folk. This confirmed that Rose's report was true. According to the townspeople, Coin acknowledged their conspiracy, and was rounded up outside the walls by someone claiming to be Kai Heinemann. Suddenly, they were shocked because they saw a monster. Anna started hearing something while Rose was complaining about how reckless Kai was. She at least expected an explanation from him. They heard someone coming, and it was Johnson asking for Rose. He apologized and said he came here from the Central Guild upon request. Anna asked why he had an urgent expression, and he asked Rose if she already knew. Rose was confused, so he pointed behind them and said that one of the 4 great beasts of the world, the seal on Toetsu, had been broken. A few minutes before Totetsu's appearance, Kai gathered Coin outside and was even healing their wounds. They were confused and waited silently. Kai told them to protect the town from the horde of monsters. Confused, they asked what he was talking about, but it didn't take so long to understand what he meant because something came out of the ground, and it was the beast Toetsu. That monster was said to require the combined might of the hero, the 4 sacred guilds, and the Amelia Kingdom's army to defeat. There was no way Coin could handle something like that on their own. Kai told them that slaying such monsters was the duty of the so-called heroes, and he asked them to show him their courage. They tried to get inside the town, but Kai's subordinates created a barrier around the town. The monsters can't enter the town, and they should fight without worrying about it. They had to confess that this was all Count Getty, the mayor, and Satyr's doing, and he was just dragged into it. He told Caleb that this was his idea, but he told him to shut up. After saying he didn't want to die here, the monster caught him and he died. Caleb seemed to get the encouragement he needed, and he rushed towards the monster to attack. It is announced to the citizens that monsters are attacking, and they must stay inside their homes. Anna wondered why a legendary beast, one that even the old hero could only barely seal, was there and questioned if Kai had broken the seal. Johnson didn't know it, but Kai Heinemann seemed to have sent Coin outside the walls to handle the monster extermination. If that beast was the real thing, this was the gravest disaster, one that even the hero's power might not be able to stop. Rose told Johnson to help with the evacuation of the residents, and Anna to request reinforcements from the Amelia Kingdom's army, and contact Arnold in Balsi. One of Kai's subordinates came and explained that this wouldn't be necessary. Rose thanked Geary for his hard work. He said he came to deliver the ones lying around town. He brought Olga, Count Getty, and the mayor. Olga woke up and asked what had happened to her. Geary said she fainted at the sight of him. Olga once again fainted when she saw Geary again. Geary told Rose that reinforcements were unnecessary, and told her to refrain from doing anything like that. Rose responded that if they were dealing with Toetsu, this entire region could be annihilated. Astaroth stated that there was nothing wrong, Ori, but Rose insisted, so she started showing some images to her. She told her that Kai instructed her to stay here and just watch. Caleb was still fighting while his subordinates were dying. He wondered where they went wrong. They sought recognition from the hero Mashiro, and started associating with high-ranking nobles, but ended up chasing only money and fame. Heroism wasn't something achieved with mere bravery, and what's needed is true courage. The kind of courage that comes from within when you risk your life to confront something greater for the sake of others. He couldn't believe he was realizing this on the verge of death. He didn't stop believing that nothing was impossible and continued fighting. He told others to get together, this was their moment to shine. However, Totetsu's real form arrived, and even Caleb thought this must be the end. Before they knew it, the beast folk had joined forces with Coin. Caleb was shocked, but Shira told him that they weren't saving them. They just wanted to make sure they were properly punished as the culprits of this incident. Caleb couldn't answer him because the monster's snakehead started coming right at them. However, Shira kicked the monster's head as if it were nothing. Kai told Shira that those were the same people who tried to sell them beast folk into slavery, and asked if he was sure about this. Shira confidently responded that he was. He said he despised them, but if they left them to die, they would be no better than they were. More than anything, they wanted to protect their town. Kai agreed to leave the fate of them to the Hunter Guild, and reminded Shira that he would be there watching over their battle. He ordered the people to protect their hometown in place of the false heroes. Rose and the others were pretty surprised because the beast folk seemed to overwhelm Toetsu. One of the beast women suggested taking down the main body so the monsters would stop spawning. Kai noticed someone watching the beast folk fight with Toetsu behind the bushes. Kai didn't notice him among the small fry, so he might be the one who revived Toetsu. Toetsu was begging Jiruma, the one who revived him, to lend him a hand. Jiruma couldn't believe that thing was the legendary beast people were talking about. Toetsu told him to shut up and kill those pests already. Jiruma decided to use something called the Soul Domination Orb they dug up from the ruins. It was a bit of a waste, but it was perfect for an experiment. As he used it on Toetsu, its tail started regenerating, and the beast folk noticed that. The situation seemed to reverse because no matter how hard they attacked, the beast didn't get any damage. Shira was about to die if Kai didn't save him. Kai told everyone that they did well, and this was as far as they would go. He told Giri to evacuate everyone inside their barrier, and he was going to handle the rest. While taking out his sword, Kai was thinking how wrong it was for outsiders like him and Jiruma should have ever interfered. This was supposed to be the story of the town's beast folk, standing up to protect their hometown and fellow townspeople of Papla. Jiruma noticed that they left someone behind. Kai used true-style swordsmanship second form called Lightning Flash to slash the monster into pieces. When Kai landed on the ground, the owner was already dead. Jiruma fell on the ground as the monster's corpse faded and was shocked that Toetsu just exploded from a single blow. Kai told him that his interference had truly disgusted him, and therefore he shouldn't expect him to show him mercy. Jiruma surrendered and said he had no intention of opposing him. He knew Kai was a real monster, so he was willing to do whatever he could to not dying. He said he would tell him whatever he wanted to know. He was seeking to find an opening to use that ace up his sleeve. With the power of words, he believed he should be able to retain his sanity while becoming the monster's level. Kai let out a deep breath and told him to use that orb he was saving as his trump card. He said if his transformed self proves to have even the slightest worth, he might just grant him a swift death. Jiruma confessed that this was his intention from the start, and commanded himself to maintain his rationality with all his might. He did use the orb and felt the overflowing power in his body. Kai told him that he didn't have time to waste and he should hurry and attack him. He tried to explode Kai's right arm, but nothing happened. He kept telling him to shatter, break, rupture, or collapse. It was like watching a child pressing all the buttons to win. But the worst force of words was ultimately just a mass of magic power. But if that power, if weak, it meant nothing. He seemed frustrated that his words didn't work on Kai. Kai explained simply while knocking him down. It was because he was weak. With one hit, he was already on the verge of death. He told Jiruma that he was going to suffer the consequences of interfering in this battle and summoned Bells. He ordered Bells to extract information he could from him, and show him hell afterwards. After settling this, he returned to the town. In the next scene, Kai was going to leave the town. Johnson and Olga came and wanted to talk to him for a moment. Johnson expressed their thanks for his help in this matter, and told him to leave coin and the parasite issue to them, a few days after Papla's long night. They celebrated the town's victory with a grand feast. Kai was surrounded by the townsfolk. Anna informed Rose that the preparations for the tea party were completed. Shira asked if Kai was going to leave the town tomorrow, and the people who heard that started telling him to stay a few more weeks. Kai told everyone that they were going to meet again, and as long as they kept fighting for themselves, they would surely be rewarded. Olga told him not to worry too much. Kai realized that she was a tough one and noted to behave himself in front of her. Rose made another new cake for Fafnir and Astaroth. Astaroth informed Rose that she brought a message from Kai. Coin and the parasite bandits have been handed over to the Hunter Guild, and they must have been through something terrifying, as they were surprisingly obedient. Rose was sure the guild would make good use of them. Rose acknowledged that Astaroth worked hard as well and asked if she would like more tea. While drinking their teas and eating the treats Rose had made, Rose started to think about what had happened in the last few days. A legendary beast, once sealed away with great difficulty by the hero, was completely annihilated in an instant. And to think that Kai was that strong. She started to wonder who exactly he was. Astaroth saying even their subordinates could have handled that monster. And that thing was nothing but a small fry for Kai did not help her thoughts. Anna and Rose realized that with Kai alone, there would have been no need for the kingdom's army. Anna stated that the mayor and Count Getty were sent to the capital for sentencing. She had written a detailed report and there was no way they would escape the death penalty. Rose wondered if Papla town would be okay without a mayor. It was a concern for sure, but during the battle, Salyupa showed great leadership. She was wide and compassionate, so Rose started to think of recommending her as the next mayor. Papla could become the ideal town for both beastfolk and humans. Rose suddenly noticed that Kai wasn't around. Once again, she missed her chance to have him try her cake. Meanwhile, Kai was glad he managed to slip away from the feast. Tomorrow was an early day, so he wanted to rest in his room. But when he returned to his room, he saw his subordinates waiting for him. When he finally got them to sleep, he lay on the bed, and once again Reina came to his mind. She was important, and Rose was on his mind too. He thought this might be the lingering sentiment of Kai from the past, a feeling so strong that it persisted even after 100,000 years. He wanted to humor this charade until Rose found a proper royal guard, but he still thought this wouldn't change anything. He would live in this world as he wanted, alongside his subordinates. Upon returning to the inn after defeating Toetsu, Rose called for him, and he thought she wanted to compliment him. Rose had a lot of things to say, but she just said she was glad he was his royal guard. Kai reminded her for the billionth time that he was only a temporary royal guard. She knew that, but as long as she was herself, he would always be by her side. That's what she believed. Kai found her pretty outrageous and thought she always said strange things. Regardless of Reina's case, he wondered if he was obsessed with this girl. Fafnir was still mumbling about how delicious Rose's cake was. At the capital of the kingdom, Amelia, Armgard, and Reina informed Keith that she was going to the city of Balsi to see Rose and Kai. Shocked, Keith asked why she wanted that so suddenly. She slapped the letter from Rose on his face and told him to read it. Reina was worried about both Rose and Kai, so she didn't see any other choice but to go to Balsi. She turned her back to go find a carriage heading there, but Keith stopped her and tried to explain her position. Reina knew her position, that's why she was going to go in disguise, and she told him to get ready too. Keith was sure their master was going to scold them for this, but had no choice but to follow his crazy friend. Meanwhile, at the Lord's Manor in a ghost town, the captain of the group, Julian, announced that he was dead. They asked if that was for real, and he said his presence had completely disappeared from this world, which meant someone capable of killing him was lurking around Papla. He said their next job had been decided, but the woman in there said they haven't even finished the current one. He said they could just kill the client later. He told Vinegar to investigate the one who defeated Julian and Salt to activate those ruins. He also told Sugar and Pepper to wipe out the town called Papla. Their organization, Calamity, didn't tolerate failure. At the same time, inside a mansion within a certain cave, a woman on a throne seemed disappointed that even Toetsu couldn't defeat the hero. The hooded man said he was watching until the very end, and number 33 had not returned. They were told not to monitor any further, but he thought it might be useful to her. She was pretty frustrated that they sacrificed another one of their subordinates. This woman was Nail, an aide of the demon king Ashmedia. She was trying to remain strong until she fulfilled her mission. She gathered her thoughts and ordered them to continue searching for the sacrifices necessary to activate the ruins and the humans who could serve as special offerings to trigger the ruins spell. She wanted someone to watch over her from the underworld, and once she completed this mission, she was going to follow after that person too. Deeper into the darkness, there was a palace named Babylon Palace, and a demon named Pazuzu was reporting to a demon girl named Tiamat that the analysis of the previously reported ruins was completed. It had been confirmed to be a gate for their demonic army, and he was going to manifest in this world and open the gate for Tiamat. Tiamat got pretty excited and said she couldn't wait any longer. Reina and Keith were setting out to find Kai and Rose. Calamity were working on their plan to kill Kai, and Nail was trying to save Ashmedia. Meanwhile, Kai and Rose took off. Shortly after leaving Papla, they reunited with Arnold. After Arnold informed them that permission to return to the royal capital would be granted in about 2 weeks, and until then they were going to stay in Balsi, he quickly left. It seemed he still needed a few more days to clean up the aftermath of Toetsu. A 2-week delay, but that was just perfect because he also had business in Balsi after all. Kai found the Hunter Guild of Balsi. The guild was close to the royal capital and served as a key transport hub to the Silk Great Forest, which was ideal for high-level monster hunting. Thus, hunters from all over the world gather in the Balsi. A place like this naturally had many jobs available. A hunter guild, which mediates between jobs and hunters, was essential. For someone like Kai, who plans to travel freely around the world in the future, acquiring a hunter's license for quick earning was necessary. Before going inside, he wondered if Rose and the others had already found an inn, so he wanted to hurry up and register as a hunter. Johnson was watching him from inside, looking thoughtful. Hunters were divided into 6 ranks, from novice to superhuman. Their rank increases based on evaluations from completed jobs and requests. To reach C rank or higher, additional challenges must be completed. But as long as he was registered, he could freely accept jobs suitable for his rank from the guild's bulletin board. This was his goal. He rang the bell on the table and asked the girl if he was going to register here to become a hunter. The girl turned to him and said they handle registrations here. She informed him that the registration fee was 10,000 ores. Kai opened his item box to see the money he had stored. The girl was shocked that he had an item box. Kai totally forgot that this was a rare gift, so he said she must be mistaken. He gave her the 10,000 ores and she started confirming the ores. Kai made his first mistake. If he stands out too much, he might get dragged into trouble again. He must be careful about revealing rare items or skills. The next step was to assess his gift and status. The girl asked him to touch the crystal, and it would display his information. Kai was surpassing his stats to around 100 on average with the Divine Seal gloves, but to match his gift, he should lower it to a novice level. But he didn't even know what the statues of a typical novice hunter were. For now, he decided to set his power level average to 12. Just in case he would wear a ring with no abilities as a dummy. The moment the girl saw his gift, she screamed what it was, which caught a lot of attention. She immediately apologized. But Kai didn't mind that as he was used to getting reactions like that. One of the hunters who heard his gift started making fun of Kai. Mia, the receptionist girl, told Raiga to stop or she would report him to the branch chief. He stopped and told her that she didn't need to defend a traitor. Mia apologized to Kai again for revealing it without his permission. Kai told her not to worry and said spreading the word would help him. If people think he was weak, he wouldn't get involved in troublesome matters. But Mia thought he was the kind of person who enjoys being mocked. She then said she was going to appraise his status and skill, and once again reacted the same when she saw his status was 12. As expected, his status must have seemed strange, but he put on the dummy ring, so he explained that he was wearing a stat-boosting ring. He said he would remove it, and she could appraise him again. It was supposed to be a simple registration, but it ended up being a hassle for Kai. Before he left, Mia told him that he would need to come back a few more times for complete registration and whispered to him not to show that ring in public. When he entered the street, he realized what Mia was talking about. A little earlier, inside Johnson's private room on the upper floor of the guild, a B-rank hunter Ilsa asked why she had to tail some kid like that. She couldn't understand what was the point of watching over Maria Heinemann's son, Kai. Johnson kicked her out, saying it would be easier to show her than explain. He said Kai was at the reception counter right now and she should go and see for herself. When she went to the reception side of the guild, she heard people talking about his gift and the ring that boosts his stats insanely. They wanted to steal it and started planning to rob him. Now she understood why Johnson ordered protection. Seeing the hunters of the Balsi Guild becoming thieves showed how much the guild's quality had declined. She recalled Mia asking her to keep an eye on him after he leaves the guild. It looked like she couldn't refuse babysitting the kid after all. She started moving to help him but was totally frozen after seeing Kai taking them down with his bare hands. After he beat up everyone in there, Kai immediately realized she was watching him and they made eye contact. Panicked, Ilsa tried to hide, but he already saw through her skill presence erasure. Johnson came and asked if she had seen that. Puzzled, Ilsa asked how he was supposed to be useless because his combat power wasn't just about gear. Johnson told her that this wasn't even his full strength and that he was a monster. Ilsa asked if he was planning to use him to purge the filth from Balsi. Kai and they had history and they would clash sooner or later. He had no interest in making an enemy of that kid, and that was exactly why this mission existed. In a certain room within the luxurious residential area of Balsi, the man who got beaten up by Kai explained what happened to their boss. They thought it was because of his ring's power. Their boss, Ma Higu, didn't believe them and asked if they had gathered intel on him. One of them said his gift was the most incompetent in the world and his name was Kai. There were rumors that he was involved in something. He was surprised that Kai was involved with coin. The boy informed him that it was widely believed that the legendary beast Toetsu was defeated by the local beast folk, but according to eyewitnesses, it was actually that guy Kai who took it down. This confirmed in their head that the ring he was wearing had enough power to defeat one of the 4 great beasts of the world, because that was the only explanation. He took out a potion and drank it. The thought of getting his hands on that kind of ring and becoming stronger than those arrogant heroes boiled his blood. Besides, he believed his man had a plan to outsmart him. He said that if brute force wouldn't work, they would exploit his weakness instead. Lately, he had been meeting frequently with that guild receptionist and they seemed pretty close. A few days later, at Balsi's annual masquerade festival, Fafnir was wandering around excitedly to see everything, enjoying the festival. Kai explained to Mia that she was planning to visit every single food stall. Miu found her so adorable. Kai warned Fafnir not to get the outfit Anna made for her dirty. Miu helped her wipe her mouth. Fafnir thanked her and for the first time she shared her food with her. Kai couldn't help but notice how attached Faf became to Miu. Astaroth, on the other hand, claimed she came to check for bargains, and she also noticed that some people had been watching Kai for the past few days. Kai figured he would set up some insurance just in case. Shirayuki was also there in disguise to protect Kai. Kai told her to go find out where that was and their purpose. If possible, she was going to gather details, and he left her to make the judgment. After that, they enjoyed the festival as usual. After the festival ended, Kai thanked Mew for playing with Fafnir today. Rose wasn't someone who could easily attend festivals, and Anna wasn't the type to leave Rose behind to have fun. Mew responded that she had fun too, and it was like having a cute little sister. Mia's offering to come along was a big help for both Kai and Fafnir. Kai couldn't help but ask if she would like to hand out again, and Mia said she would love to. She also would like to talk with Kai again too, but she mumbled this so Kai couldn't hear her. Kai asked if she had said something, and she said when she talked to Kai, it didn't feel like she was talking to someone younger than her. As stated on the Hunter registration form, Kai was 15, though he was actually 100,000 years old. Mew's house was down that road, so they would have to say goodbye to each other there. She patted Fafnir's head and waved at Kai before she left. While she was walking, Astaroth started describing how the warm hues of the setting sun seamlessly blended with the soft flush on the girl's cheeks, and called her a pitiful girl. In the next scene, Shiroyaki informed Kai that something named Card was using a hostage to try and blackmail him. When Kai heard this news, his whole expression changed to the exact one. He looked like the times when he was in that dungeon. It was Anna and Rose's first time seeing him like that. Rose asked if she was referring to the hunters who had been targeting Kai these past few days. Every time they had attacked, Kai had dealt with them. They were weaklings, yet they refused to give up. Kai tried to avoid causing a commotion, but he started to think about killing them now. Those people abducted Mia Campanella after she parted ways with Kai at the festival just a while ago. Kai asked Shirayuki if she was watching. She wasn't the type to stand idly by without his orders, so he wanted to know what she was doing. Shirayuki kneeled in front of him. Suddenly, one of Kai's subordinates, Nemesis, came and told her to leave it to her. She had already assigned her subordinates to monitor both the hostage and Card. The hostage was as good as rescued. Shirayuki said this wouldn't be necessary, and she would go and rescue her herself right now. Kai didn't care about her and said he would handle them himself. As he was heading out, Rose stopped him and said the 4 sacred guilds, who should be protecting people, have repeatedly committed crimes. The kingdom could send troops to deal with them. Kai stated that it wasn't a problem. She got caught up in this because of him, and he wanted to handle it alone. Nemesis was so amazed by Kai and said they were enemies of women, which is why they cannot allow them to go unpunished. She wanted to prepare the perfect ruinous scenario for Card. Kai didn't know what she was scheming, but if it meant sending Card to hell, he would go along with it. Nemesis was so happy that he allowed her to punish those men. A maid came and gave a letter to Kai. A little earlier, Mew realized that she had been thinking about Kai all day. She caused him trouble, so she tried to convince herself that she was just worried about him and kept watching over him every day. But before she knew it, she started looking forward to seeing Kai. She felt so bad because this would be an abuse of her guild staff privileges. She decided that it would be best to stop meeting him personally and left the watching over to Ilsa. But she wondered if she would be okay with never seeing Kai again. While she was lost in her thoughts, Card came and kidnapped her. Mew couldn't move and was brought to one of the churches on the outskirts of town. Ma welcomed Mew, and apparently Mew knew exactly who they were. She told them that even the 4 sacred guilds wouldn't escape punishment for assaulting a guild employee like this. Ma told her that they just needed her as leverage to punish Kai. Mew was confused because they had just met with Kai and they were using her to lure him. If it were the kind-hearted Kai, he would definitely come to save her. But she told them that Kai wouldn't come even if they kidnapped her. They told her to stop lying and said they were in a relationship and were soon to be engaged. Mew was more shocked that Kai was in love with her than her being kidnapped. She then realized that they were talking about the ring. They said she was going to be a fun one to break. Mew asked what they were planning to do. They were eager to have some fun with her and then kill her. They ripped off her shirt while Ma was watching her with joy. Mew blamed herself for this incident and decided to take care of this on her own and hit the man's head, but she wasn't strong enough to knock him down, so the man hit her back. Mew was about to give up, but then Kai appeared right in the middle of them. This was the last place she wanted him to be right now, but she still wanted to see him. Kai was so mad that he just told them to die. Ma ordered his men to surround him. Kai took out his ring and apologized to Mew for being late. He covered her body with a white robe that protects the wearer from all forms of attack and automatically reflects them. They thought they found an opening and started rushing towards Kai, but he single-handedly started kicking them. Ma thought this was the power of the ring, and this made him want the ring even more. But he was indecisive. He backed up a few steps, but Kai stopped him, asking where he was going after sending him an invitation. They sent him a letter that said they had taken Mia, and they would be exchanged for the stat-boosting ring. Otherwise, they cannot guarantee the hostage's life. Kai told Nemesis that he was going to the place he was invited even though he didn't know what she was planning. That was actually fitting her scenario. Kai told her to stay out of it and he would deal with this himself. Kai took out his sword and confirmed that he was the leader of the Card, Mahigu. He couldn't help but vocalize how much he pissed him off and asked if he really thought he could escape in one piece. That is the end of the recap at Chapter 18. Please read the pinned comment about the next part.